And for more on Prime Minister Netanyahu's meetings with American leaders, let's speak now with Dr. Benjamin Radd. He's political scientist and lecturer at the UCLA School of Law, and he joins us now from Los Angeles. Dr. Radd, first of all, thank you very much for joining us. I want to start by asking you about that meeting. I mean, it was all smiles before they headed, for those closed-door talks. The question I have is, do you think that Joe Biden, now that he's no longer in the race, is he going to be much harder on Israel and push for a deal, a ceasefire deal, and the day after plans, and presumably, help, win the election for the Dems against Trump? Or is he going to be staunchly traditionalist and be unwavering in his support for Israel, even, if Netanyahu shows signs of further delay?
Thank you for having me. I think what Joe Biden is going to do is position Kamala Harris to be in the best opportunity, the best position herself to be able to defeat Donald Trump in November. And that means solidifying gaps and concerns that some Democratic voters and others might have with regards to her position on this issue. So there's obviously a sort of left-wing progressive part of the Democratic base that was concerned with President Biden's staunch support of Israel, unconditional support by and large. And so he's going to want to make sure that Kamala Harris is not burdened with any of those positions that would bind her or lock her in, but at the same time, also attract moderate voters who are in the United States, who are very supportive of Israel and the continued operations there. So all of that to say, he will reemphasize what the United States wants. I don't think he will box himself or Kamala Harris into a position that shifts too much from where the U.S. policy is. And Netanyahu is facing more than enough pressure himself domestically that I think that would be as big of a factor, if not more of a factor, than any pressure he might get from President Biden or Vice President Harris.
So let's talk about Ms. Harris. And given Biden's approach to the war in Gaza has been divisive, controversial, would she chart a new path? And if she does, what kind of electoral impact might that have?
Well, I don't see her deviating too much from where the party's position has been. Again, Israel enjoys broad support in Congress, notwithstanding the members of Congress, the Democratic Party, who did not appear yesterday at Netanyahu's address. The party in general, voters in the party in general, still continue to support the U.S.-Israel relationship as it stands, and that's not going to shift too much. So I can't see Kamala Harris moving away from that without alienating centrist voters, moderate voters, those voters who are in favor of a robust continued alliance with Israel. So she will try to thread that needle. Where we might see her deviate from President Biden is be a bit more outspoken publicly on the need for maintaining, putting a focus on the humanitarian conditions, the suffering of the people in Gaza, and limiting the types of airstrikes, the frequency, the location, all the other actions Israel's taking that are resulting in civilian casualties. So I think you will hear her be more outspoken on that, but I don't think she'll back away from the steadfast support that we've heard President Biden give.
Dr. Radd, I wonder how voters see both leaders, though. We know that Harris condemned pro-Hamas graffiti and the burning of the American flag. But do Gaza war protesters and Palestinian Americans see any difference between Biden and Harris on this whole Palestinian issue?
Some of them are waiting. They're holding their breath to see if Harris is going to shift in direction away from President Biden, understanding well what the deficits are among the voters who are a bit more critical of the U.S. Position in support of Israel, specifically in key swing states and among demographics that the Democratic Party needs in order to win in November. So we're going to wait and see. And I think some of this also may hinge on who her vice presidential pick is. If it ends up being someone like Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, who has been very outspoken against Hamas's actions and supportive of Israel, versus some other vice presidential nominee who has taken a more neutral or non-position on this issue. So that might also have something to do with it, and remains to be seen.
And Ben, Mr. Netanyahu seemingly hedging his bets by meeting with Mr. Trump as well. Will we see a starkly different interaction from the meetings with Biden or Harris?
I think you'll see a full-throated, full-throttled embrace of Netanyahu. Probably different photo ops, different staging, definitely different messaging. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear Trump come out more aggressively and forcefully, not only with regards to the continued support for Israel, but even going further, saying what might need to be done, allowing Israel to have more unrestrained in its operations in Gaza, and maybe even saying a word or two about Iran, especially in light of recent news that Iran, according to the U.S. officials, Iran has had plans to target President Trump or former President Trump for assassination. So I think it'd be interesting to hear any comments regarding Iran, which were not a focus of Netanyahu's meeting with Biden.
Okay, so Dr. Radd, we know Trump might say all that, and we also know that Netanyahu's far-right partner, Itamar Ben-Gvir, spoke to Bloomberg and basically said, Trump would be a better option, for Israel. But is it really clear that, a Trump administration is going to provide even more than a Biden administration? Because if I take a look at the numbers, there's a $14 billion, package, military aid package, and there have been hundreds and hundreds of military shipments so far as well.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say that Joe Biden will go down as one of the most staunchly pro-Israel presidents in American history. I can't see Trump doing any more than that, especially he'd have to get any additional aid packages through Congress in order to do so. Where we might see a potential, again, former President Trump, future President Trump shift a bit, again, might be with regards to pursuing relationship, a warming of relations between Israel and the Saudis, something that discussions that began under the Trump administration and led to the Abraham Accords, and now culminating with formal relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia, coupled with more aggressive positions with respect to Iran and its nuclear weapons program. And I think those are areas where we might see some more material differences versus what we've seen from President Biden.
And we've seen boycotts in U.S. Congress and protests in the streets in the U.S. Just considering the changing U.S. political landscape and also Netanyahu's current controversies, what should he do, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu should do to regain or redefine his influence in both American and Israeli politics?
It would be to, as many Israelis have advocated for and the families of hostages have said, to agree to a deal, to get the hostages freed, agree to a ceasefire, even if it means that the main objective of having Hamas eliminated is not met. And that's the best move Netanyahu can take right now. I mean, we're seeing on the video you're showing, right, the seal the deal. This is what these families want. This is what a large percentage of American supporters of Israel want, of what Israelis themselves want. This will come at the risk of Netanyahu losing possibly his coalition and having his government toppled, which exposes him to political and legal risk. But at the end of the day, it's a question of what is going to matter more, securing the freedom of these hostages and bringing an end to this conflict, or maintaining his position as prime minister. That is really a personal decision to him.
Dr. Radd, we do have to leave it there. Thank you so much for talking to us on Asia First. Dr. Benjamin Radd from the UCLA School of Law, joining us from Los Angeles.